It went beyond my training as a young minister, he said. You take your death and dying courses, learn about the value of ritual, what to say that would be comforting, but you don't really have anything for what happens when a young person has been gunned down. And the compounding effect of the trauma is when you have young people sitting there and they have already been through a couple of homicides. So it was disturbing. Trying to talk and connect with these young people, it just wasn't working. They weren't really hearing what was being said at the funeral. And you had some who just seemed vacant, still reeling over what had happened. And there were others who were angry, and you could tell there was also a gathering of that anger because they were going to retaliate. Minister friends of his who were also struggling appealed to Jeffrey for help. He was a young man, not much older than many of the perpetrators and victims of the violence that was gutting the community. Couldn't he make a connection? Find a way of getting through to these kids? But I couldn't, he says. It was as foreign to me as it was to my friends. It was around that time that Jeffrey had a dream. In it, Jesus appeared to him in church, wearing an orange suit and a red shirt and a purple tie. He showed Jeffrey his palatial office, then led him to a big Mercedes-Benz and drove him to a mansion. Then Jesus turned to Jeffrey and said, "What do you think?" Jeffrey answered, "It's a lot." And Jesus looked at Jeffrey and said, "Is this really me?" And then Jeffrey woke up. I dreamed it more than once, Jeffrey said, so I thought there's something not right here. I just knew it was like a message that this is not the right direction. But that was very daunting for me because I thought, I don't know how to connect. I don't know what I'm doing. Jeffrey realized he needed to try harder to address the community's problems. He built new programs in his church aiming to help at-risk youth. I even tried a rap sermon one time, he said, chuckling. A friendly young congregation member gave him a tip afterwards, "Don't do that again." He met with local high school kids, but the gang members and crack dealers weren't attending school, so they remained beyond his reach. He didn't know what to do next. Not long before that first meeting of the ministers, a 21-year-old named Jesse McKee was murdered in the street near Jeffrey's church. Some gang members stopped the young man to steal his leather jacket, and when he resisted, they stabbed him 6 times and took it. Yards away from the church door, Jesse bled to death. I'd never met Jesse, Jeffrey said. The first time I met his parents was at the memorial service. I think they called me because I was young and I was known to work with youth and all that. They were like, "Can you come and lead a candlelight vigil and pray?" And I said, "Sure," but I was really nervous. Jeffrey thought he knew pretty much everyone in the area, but as he stood in the freezing cold, leading the vigil for Jesse, he saw all around him the faces of people he'd never met before, even though many of them lived in the projects just down the street from his house. Then I went back to Jesse's family's house, and they talked about him. And there were a lot of people who were there, who were just from the hood. I couldn't wait to get out. What happened next confused Jeffrey. People started coming up to him and shaking his hand. Even though I didn't do anything other than pray, I didn't have a program for them. I didn't provide a service for them. I just, prayed and was there. And they shook my hand. He couldn't stop thinking about it. He thought about it in the car on the way home, and he went to bed thinking about it. And the thought that kept coming to him was, what I did tonight was really ministry. Soon afterward, the police caught 3 of the guys who killed Jesse. They were in their mid-20s, just a couple years younger than Jeffrey. I was like, man, these are stone hardcore gang members, but why, if they're around my age, why are they so far away from my thinking? I'm black, they're black, I live in the city, they live in the city. And I don't understand it. All that was just churning inside me, and I didn't have anybody to really talk to, because I did try to talk to some of my colleagues, but they were hell-bent on building their megachurches. They're like, "How many people joined your church this month?" And I'm like, who cares? This kid was killed. Shouldn't we do something about this? Jesse's murder marked a turning point for Jeffrey. He saw the inherent flaw, the paradox, of his approach to the problem. You had these